Before we get started, I'd just like to note that this video is based off of a video by White Light called A Serious Critique of Minecraft. I figured that with the Clash Royale update coming up pretty soon, I'd create a pretty deep analysis of what I believe the biggest issues in Clash Royale are, as well as a couple of solutions that I personally have to address them. So without further ado, let's get right into it. When it comes to mobile games, there are many that comes to mind, and as a person who grew out without any PC or consoles, the first game that I've ever played were all on my phone. One company that does a stunning job is Supercell, who have been able to produce massive hits such as Clash of Clans, Heyday, and of course, Clash Royale. Few companies or game developers have been able to sustain their games for as long as they have, and there's no doubt in my mind that this trend will continue. I, as many others, probably remember their first times playing Royale. You probably moved over from a game like Clash of Clans and immediately got immersed in the fast-paced, high-pressure environment of facing other players in real time. In addition, with just the 42 cards available at launch, that already allowed over 100 million different deck combinations. And with just the sheer amount of decks that could be played, Supercell had created a game with such a level of depth and variability that its success was almost guaranteed. In addition, clans, game modes, and other features just added on to the uniqueness of the game. Of course, every game has their goals, and Clash Royale's was quite straightforward. Build a deck to take down your opponent's towers. Therefore, players have a reason to make adjustments and find the best synergies for their decks. Clash Royale also had a progression system. The higher you leveled up your cards, the more damage and hit points they had. So there we go, we had an incentive to level up our cards. How do you do that exactly? Well, by earning cards and gold through battling other players. It's the perfect system. The more you battle, the more you can refine your deck, while also earning more cards to level up. Over 4 years later, however, things are now quite different. Undoubtedly, the game has lost some of its relevance. A simple search in Google Trends shows that it's currently at an all-time low. For anyone that stays updated in the community on social media, the reason is quite obvious. Players are getting stale of the game. Why? Well, there are many reasons. The first is freshness. As stated earlier, Clash Royale has an immense potential for depth, simply just in the variability of deck building. This potential, however, is almost completely untapped. As with any game, a meta develops, meaning that only a few dozen decks begin to rise in popularity. This means that over time, players end up facing the same deck archetypes over and over, leading to gameplay becoming relatively repetitive. The second reason is progression. As you may have experienced firsthand, levels are quite important in the game. Therefore, when you're trying to push high on ladder as quickly as possible, the best option is to simply pick one deck, stick with it for a long time, and just level those 8 cards up. This is really great for maxing out a deck and pushing high on ladder, but in terms of keeping players interested, this does not do a very good job. Not only are you essentially limited to playing one deck for your entire Clash experience, but you're only going to face a few dozen different deck types, resulting in a repetitive playing experience. So with that, many players will play hundreds or even thousands of games with just one deck, knowing that they're simply limited by their levels. And that's not to mention the players who completely rely on overleveling their cards just to give players a tough time. Finally, the game has also struggled in terms of updates. From the game's launch in 2016, the Clash team was very quick with their updates, which made sense. Clash Royale was still a new game, and at this point, there were still many obvious card niches that were missing. The global release of 6 new cards, tournaments, challenges, clan chest, trophy league, 2v2. These updates all saw massive boosts in the game's popularity and relevance. But then, the updates began to slow. It made sense, however. As more and more cards were introduced, it was harder for new cards to have that fresh feeling. In addition, at this point, the game was rapidly losing its novelty and fame as metas and overleveling became rampant throughout the trophy system. Then, on October 9th, we got the Epic Quests update, which the dev team claimed was the biggest update ever. However, it completely flopped. What followed were a string of updates that took quite a bit of development time, but failed to make any major comeback or add any additional depth to the game. Private tournaments were basically killed, clan chess was removed, and the major Clan Wars update that everyone had looked forward to led to a boost in popularity for just 1 month. The addition of star levels helped, and the trophy road in April of 2019, followed by an introduction of the season pass, seemed to push things in a positive direction, but none of the updates since have even matched the level of excitement that those previous updates have. It then took 2 months for them to add a party button and tiebreakers, and another 2 months to decrease battles from 6 minutes to 5 minutes. To me, it's pretty clear why the game does not garner the same excitement it had previously. Yes, the aforementioned changes were great to the game, but in terms of adding more depth, it completely flopped, and many consider the last Clash Royale update to be back in July 2019 with the introduction of seasons. With the most recent update, things seem to take a turn for the better. The revamp of Clan Wars is seeing more new stuff than we have seen in a long time. The introduction of the river race as well as boat battles means that there's always direct competition with other clans, and the War Gates element in a sense brings back the clan chest. In addition to that, Clan Wars is supposed to be the best place in-game to earn rewards. With progression being a big issue in the current game, that sounds pretty good to me, and I truly hope the dev team does deliver on that claim. Already, the update sounds pretty good, and that's without knowing much about the boat battles or clan war leagues, 2 additional features that will be introduced in this update. As mentioned earlier, Clash Royale needs more depth, and this update seems to introduce just that. With the requirement of 4 different decks with no card overlaps, players will now have to play more decks than they were probably used to. This directly translates to more variability in gameplay as well as deck building. I do have one problem with this, however. According to Drew, Clan Wars will be open to all players regardless of levels. Yet these 4 decks that are going to be built will have to be played at your own card levels. I think you see what the issue here is going to be, and that is the one of matchmaking. If there are level 1 players as well as level 13 players playing in the same pool, how exactly is that going to work? That being said, Drew has not announced how matchmaking will work as of today, so I'll give him the benefit of the doubt and hope that they do have a good system to match players accordingly. I also have a second issue with this update, and it's about the competitive scene for Clash Royale. The update seems amazing for the casual player. Progression improvements as well as more varied gameplay mean that the game will receive a nice breath of fresh air, and the added element of Clan Wars provides more depth in terms of community involvement and clan cooperation. For the pro scene, however, the one biggest demand still has not been met, and that is with 2v2. For anyone that follows the Clash Royale League, you will know that 2v2 plays a big part. In fact, it's the first set of every match. However, the lack of a proper 2v2 ladder system in-game makes it much more difficult for 2v2 players to gain that recognition as well as to just train their 2v2. Instead of being able to just hop into a 2v2 ladder, players have to coordinate with each other just to simply practice. Adding on to that, I don't believe a 2v2 ladder is in the works at the moment, but I do hope that they have moved it up their priority list for sure. That being said, this upcoming update will be a huge success given the correct implementation. Not only will it be fresh for the player, but I also see it as a new platform for totally new content to be added. Just like the introduction of the builder base in Clash of Clans saw the opening up of a whole new realm of content and gameplay, I see Clan Wars 2.0 as a platform for Clash Royale to do the same. The dev team will be able to add so much more to this Clan Wars feature over time. So, as for how Clash Royale can continue to add depth and variance into its game, I have a few suggestions. The first is an improvement in progression. As stated earlier, the Clan Wars update looks like it will help, but why stop there? The biggest issue in progression is how quickly it is capped. On ladder, you can push all day, but the largest amount of rewards you will get are 4 chests that will each take at least 3 hours to unlock. And for what? For some pretty lackluster rewards at best. Speaking of which, chests are also insanely undervalued. As a quick example, the Legendary chest costs 500 gems. You know what else is equivalent to 500 gems in value? Pass Royale, and I can guarantee you spending $5 on buying Pass Royale is so much more valuable than spending $5 and buying a Legendary chest. Challenges are also capped in terms of progression. Rewards are only one-time rewards, meaning that you can only complete a special challenge once. I personally don't have a problem with that, but I truly believe that there needs to be an option for Clash Royale players to just grind non-stop. In Clash of Clans, for example, you can raid villages almost constantly. Sure, you're capped by your storage limit or your number of builders, but for the most part, you're not even going to come close to hitting those limits. In Clash Royale, the closest we have to that will be challenges, but those cost you gems to enter, with no guarantee that you're going to get much value. If a better system were implemented, grinding out your card levels would be much more possible, and newer players would actually have an option to catch up with older players. In addition, faster progression directly translates to more cards getting leveled up, which directly translates to more deck being played by the player. More decks being played means more depth in terms of gameplay, which brings up my next point. Clash Royale needs to add more depth into its game. More variability in the meta will help quite a bit, but there are so many more areas that you can expand in. In terms of gameplay, for example, the best way to do so is through inventive new game modes. The recent challenges that force you to build a deck around a certain archetype are a great step in that direction, as players are forced to use a deck that is out of their comfort zone. In addition, the Stop the Giant game mode was a new type of challenge that I do hope Clash Royale expands on, where players get to try out unique troops and spells. There are so many more ideas, including a changed arena, custom towers, each of which has the potential to alter gameplay as well as change up the core experience of the player base. Moving beyond gameplay, however, the dev team can also implement more depth into progression as well. Let's go back into Clash of Clans, whose progression system in and of itself brings about a lot of strategy. A simple YouTube search will give you suggestions on the best order to upgrade your defenses for each town hall, or which troops to upgrade first depending on your priorities on war or farming. In addition, magic items spice up your village with boosts for every single aspect of your village imaginable. Finally, the addition of new currencies unlocks new shops and exclusive items to help you make progress, while also adding on more gameplay loops for players to enjoy. I believe if Clash Royale made a push towards making progression a bit more advanced, it could make the process of leveling up your account much more viable and enjoyable. Finally, I believe the community aspect of Clash Royale also needs work. The dev team knows this, and the Clan Wars update aims to hit just that. With clans now directly competing with each other, clans will have to work together to maximize their rewards. Each player has 4 decks they can use each day, so clans have to make sure people actually get those 4 attacks in. In addition, boat battles means that clans will work together to defend their boat with custom troops and towers, as well as work together to attack other clans and slow them down. This is great, but there's so much more room for improvement. The big feature I want to hammer in is tournaments. These used to be great ways for streamers and content creators to form communities. Tournaments were basically free rewards, and I really hated seeing those rewards get taken away. Since then, tournaments have been pretty much useless, and there's little to no point in playing them at all, at least from a casual standpoint. Now yes, I understand that these tournament rewards were removed because people were abusing them, so how about this? Revamp tournaments and add those rewards back, and make it so that only a group of Supercell approved creators or public figures can make those super massive, gigantic tournaments. I'm not saying this because I'm a content creator either. Back when streamers were hosting tournaments left and right, there was much more community involvement, and players would be much more active and invested in the game, as watching these streamers could in a way gain you in-game rewards. Speaking of which, the in-game community tab is in both Brawl Stars and Clash of Clans, and it not only greatly helps creators, but it also exposes more of the player base to the game's many great content creators. Building a community beyond just the game can go a long way in maintaining a game's relevance and interest, and I do hope the team delivers on this aspect in this upcoming update. All in all, Clash Royale has saw a dip in relevance over the past year, and there's no denying that. But the game still has a very wide player base, as well as a lot of players that would probably be interested in returning given a proper update. However, the current lack of new content and difficulty of progression is hurting the game, although the next update seems like it's heading in the right direction. Clash Royale already has so much depth in their game in terms of mechanical skill, but there's so much more to expand on in the Clash Royale universe, and the game still has so much more untapped potential in its gameplay, its progression, as well as its community. I truly hope the next update sets a stage on which future updates can be built upon, and that players once again find that rush and enjoyment that they experienced when first downloading the game. Now I know that was a lot of information, so of course, let me know what you guys think about everything down below. But unfortunately guys, that's all I've got time for in today's episode. Huge thanks to all of my channel members. You guys are the absolute G's. If you enjoyed, please leave a like down below, as well as a subscription to my channel. And as always, this is Legendaray, and I'm signing off. See you guys next time.